Rural folk, what is the creepiest thing you've seen or experienced? I was on Magnetic Island a few years ago. It was 2 to 3 a.m. and I was on the beach with a guy, when we started hearing a woman screaming for her life coming from the forest. It sounded like the desperation screams of someone who was being raped or murdered. We left at that point but never figured out what it was. We also heard demonic cackles every night and assumed they were bats, but I've searched everywhere and never found a video of a bat sounding like that. I live on a road very far away from town. I have neighbors but I can't hear them or see them from my house. My back deck overlooks a field before miles of woods. One night, I'm out back having a smoke and most likely stoned. I'm just chilling in the dark with a little bit of candlelight and the light from inside when I hear a sound that scared the hell out of me. It was a deep low breathing, snorting sound. It came from the field, but it sounded like it was right next to me. It gave me chills and I thought there was a monster in my backyard. It's pitch black and I can't see what it is, not that I really wanted to. I went back inside, locked the door and goggled the shit out of it. It was a deer. During their mating season a male deer can make sounds like that. I live in a rural part of New Jersey surrounded by forest and hills. One night in high school my friends and I were driving down one of the local back roads to find a place to chill and smoke. As we're driving, a deer jumps out in front of the car, as they normally do. This time though, as we slowed down the deer turned around back the way it came, walked up to a tree, and then proceeded to bash its head in on the tree in one hit and fall dead. It didn't run into the tree, it walked over and then slammed its head into it. It was the weirdest behavior we've ever seen. Could have been rabies but it was really freaky. We decided to go back and smoke at my friend's house. I grew up in Princeton and our local rabbi was walking on the road to temple. A deer ran in front of an oncoming car. It got hit and flew into the rabbi, causing a severe brain injury. I believe he made a full recovery. He's lucky to have recovered. They can cause massive damage given their weight, had a few crashes growing up because of them but nothing like that. Crazy. My brother and I were home alone watching TV. He had an inflatable, life-size Stone Cold wrestler in the basement. When you punched it, it would pop back up and say things like "Q's Stone Cold says so." So, we're watching TV, and we know it's just us at home when suddenly we hear "Q's Stone Cold says so" coming from the basement. Very creepy since the thing wouldn't talk on its own. Something had to have moved it, and we were home alone. We both just looked at each other and ran downstairs to see what was happening. I grew up spending a ton of time in the Colorado Rockies. In college, a friend and I were on a weekend backpacking trip, up in National Forest land, about 300 yards off trail, when we stumbled across a buried bunker someone had made. I think it was a 20-foot-long tough shed, buried up to its roof. We only noticed it because sun glinted off one of the two small windows in the roof, which had been deliberately covered with tree litter. Looking through the windows, we could make out a cot, buckets and tubs of food and supplies, etc. Found the door, which had a heavy padlock securing it. We hoped out of there with quickness, didn't want to run into whoever had built the place. We grew up in the hills out in the country. We own a ton of land including a ridge and a large hill. One day, me and my cousins were deep in the woods and walked up on an old, bloody white shirt hanging off a tree. We thought it may have been from hunting, because it almost looked like a rag. But we looked around more and found a pair of shoes. Then a pair of socks, shorts and underwear and an old freezer bag covered in mold and dirt. Looked like petite women's clothing. We got our uncles out there and they blew it off until they saw it. They left it where we found it and told us to stay out of the woods for a while. No one really talked about it after. Looking back, that seems extremely suspicious. I was in western Washington hiking on a forestry road. It was Mayish time frame. Snow still in patches as it was about 6,000 feet elevation. Walking along, beautiful day, by myself, and all of a sudden, I got one of the coldest chills I have ever had in my life. You know the feeling, chicken skin, and fear of unknown. Walk a bit further and as I approach a patch of snow there was a set of very large mountain lion prints. They were pretty fresh, but walking the same way as me. I walked back to my car walking backwards. It was maybe 200 to 250 yards to my car, walked the whole way backwards so he or she could not sneak up on me. I know it was watching me. I never went up there again without at least another person.